and welcome back to the Great Awakening podcast. I am your host, Jennifer Longmore, and today we are going to be diving into a nice little pep talk, a little solo cast today for you. It's been a while. We're going to be talking about the three main choices that you get to make right now, and the three main choices, of course, that others get to make right now, and then choose based on what feels aligned for you. So, we have been in this energy. Well, we've been in this energy for quite some time. Many of us didn't know, but this tyrannical cycle, we'll call it, we're kind of in the midway point. Really started in 9/11. That was sort of like the kickoff party, so to speak. I know it wasn't a party for people. Please, it's not my goal to offend you. If anything, yes, I'm just as offended, if not more, than most people with 9/11, because there were a lot of people that had some very significant life lasting, I should say, trauma, and a variety of other things happened. But in their world, meaning the Freemason sock puppets, they that was kind of their kickoff party in a lot of ways to this cycle that we're in now. And we're about halfway through, and we can feel that at the pinnacle of this, there is a little bit of easing off right now, but of course we know that more is to come because there's a never-ending supply of BS in the Circus Act, right? So that being said, what we're seeing a lot right now, especially since there's a little bit of breathing room, and they do study us, and they know how our minds work, they know how much pressure we can handle, they know all kinds of things. We get to choose. We have three main ways. Of course, there's a multitude of ways, but these are kind of the main, I'll say, meta level subheadings that we get to play in. And so this can give you perspective, of course, for other people, and just be in allowance of what they're choosing. And then, of course, being mindful of what we're choosing. So I'm sure it's not lost on you, I guess is what I'm trying to say, that there's differing degrees of awakeness. We see people that are drinking the Kool-Aid and eating pumpkin pie, and you hear me say all this kind of stuff. And I talk like that because I'm just trying to make light of him as a caricature, because really he is quite a comical caricature to look at, as many of them are. Elon Musk is the same way, right? They all look very, very manufactured. And who knows what goes on behind the scenes with how they do their appearance and so on. But the point being is that would be what I would call awake adjacent. We have people that are willing to acknowledge that their government's screwing them over, but they're not really willing to, go deep into it. And then there are people like us who are wide awake to the point of, what in the world is this, right? This absurdity that we're living in and navigating this paradox, and everything in between. I'm going to do another episode on awakening, but for now, I'm sharing this because in that process of awakening, there are three main choices. But even for people that are awake, they're making choices from these three main energies, and so you get to choose, right? And we can kind of have a little pep talk around it. So the first way that we see people moving through life in general, this relates to the awakening, of course, but this is really just how people can relate in relationships with themselves, with food, with money, with whatever. And that is the pattern of avoidance. If I just stick my fingers in my ears and la, 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 then it doesn't exist, right? Or we see something we don't like and we step away, we withhold, we withdraw, that kind of thing. And avoiding, isn't a bad energy, because there are a lot of things we avoid. If we look at the last 2 years, there were choices I made to avoid certain situations. I have a pretty low compliance rate. You might have gathered that from how I speak. And Dr. Robin McKay, if you don't know her, she did a NEO assessment on me. And if you haven't had that done, I would highly recommend that you reach out to her. And so it was through that I found out, yeah, I have a very low compliance rate. Does it mean that I'm a total a-hole? No. I stop at stop signs. I put the cart away at the grocery store. I pay my taxes. There's a lot of things that I do. And I only share that because, of course, we were hearing people say that those of us that didn't wear masks were narcissistic sociopaths, and we were probably the people that didn't wear a seatbelt and and all of things. Now, granted, I tend to not wear a seatbelt, but I grew up in an era where it was kind of optional, and so it's something I'll put on if the beeping doesn't stop in the car or if I'm going to be doing long drives, but sometimes I do leave it off, right? And that is my choice, of course, to do that. That being said, I have a low compliance rate, and I also sometimes have things that fly out of my mouth. So over the last few years, there were occasionally times where people would uh, kind of look at me stunned, not even angry, but look at me stunned and gawking for a period of time, not in an angry, like hairy eyeball way, but really not knowing what to make of people that don't follow the rules. There are some very high compliance oriented people out there, and they know the mask is a load of crap, but they still wear it because, God forbid, they didn't follow a rule, right? And there's all kinds of people in between. But that being said, I have a low compliance rate and I have a low threshold for stupidity. And there are some stupid things out there. And so if I didn't have it in me to go out in public to deal with people that were choosing to participate in possibly the biggest scam of our lifetime, uh, I I couldn't guarantee that I'd be able to bite my tongue, right? So there, my point being is that there were certain situations I would avoid, certain conversations I would avoid in order to keep the peace and in order to protect my peace, right? I think there's two different ways to look at that. Keeping the peace isn't always a good thing. Protecting our peace is always a good thing. Like I was saying, there were things that I would choose to avoid because I either wanted to keep the peace or protect my peace. Ultimately, most times it was to protect my peace. So there's nothing wrong with that, right? Why bother? I don't need to get into right fighting with people. There's a lot of people that are very committed to being right. I know you get what I'm talking about. And so I had to choose, right? I had to navigate. So avoiding, like I said, isn't a bad thing. There's times it can actually serve us. And then, of course, we can be avoiding looking at things in the eyes. We can be avoiding conversations because of a variety of different things where it doesn't serve us, right? Where it actually creates micro leaks, where it creates this heavy wet blanket essentially in our field because this thing is always waiting to be addressed and we're not addressing it. So that is one way to move through this awakening, especially this lull that we're in right now. We all know, we can feel it in the air. And I hear this from many people that we know something else is coming, right? We see the uptick of propaganda and seeds being planted and so on. So that's one way to be navigating this great awakening right now, is to be in avoidance. But again, an avoidance in a way where it's not serving us, right? The second is to resist. Now, we saw that over the last 2 years. There were a lot of protests. There was a lot of people like me, ornery. I say that playfully, right? Just no, I'm not following the rules. I try and make me, right? Kind of being a little bit maybe bratty in other people's eyes. But all the same, we were resisting what was coming. Not that there wasn't a benefit to a lot of these structures being dismantled. There's a lot of things that need to be unpacked, right? A lot of the systems are created in a patriarchal system. They're created with, there's systems of oppression, and there's other people on this planet who we adore, right? Our fellow brothers and sisters who have been oppressed by these systems. And so in liberating one group from a system that's very oppressive, we're really liberating all of us, right? Because we all want to be moving through the world the way that we are intended to be in our divine beingness. So resistance isn't, again, a bad thing. There are certain things we really should be resisting, and then there's other things, of course, that aren't going to serve us when we look at resisting. So I'm putting these two things out here, avoidance and resistance, to look at where has it served you to avoid and resist, and then where is it maybe not? Where is it maybe wearing on you? Where might it have served you at one point, but it's just not serving anymore? So I do think it is important to resist, and I do think it's important to hold the line. And you've heard me share this many times. And when I don't comply with certain things that are going on in the world, it's not because I'm trying to be bratty, it's because I figure that if each of us held the line even 10%, right, we would be in a much different place. All of that to say that at some point, resistance to something that's inevitable can be very exhausting, right? It's a lot of, it's basically trying to push a boulder uphill, and the boulder's getting heavier and heavier, and you're getting weaker and weaker because, you know, you can only push so much. So then our third option is to outcreate, is to look at, okay, here's what's going on. How do I outcreate this? What do I mean by outcreate? Like literally rise above it. Not even rise above it to be aware of it, just if everything's in a box, then we go and become the circle, right? Where it's not even, the energy doesn't even compute. The circle and the square can be compatible in the same space. They can take up space on this planet, but they don't speak each other's language. Circles fit inside of circles, and you know, squares fit inside of squares. And that's kind of how it is. So in the infinite field of possibility, we kind of look at this ever expanding circle, right? And that's where we want to live from. So instead of creating because we're trying to prove something, or, you know, teach the system a lesson, or any of these energies that really fall more into resistance, the resistance category, we want to look at, how do we outcreate this? How do I make my body so flipping healthy that I have an immense amount of overflow, even though there are chemicals being dropped on me while I'm sleeping from airplanes, even though the water's being poisoned, the food's being poisoned, there's, you know, spell casting, there's hypnosis, there's mass propaganda and all the things. How do I make my vitality, how do I make my physicality so fortified that I can outcreate all of this, that I can have the endurance, right? That's really, I guess, what we're trying to talk about here is how, what is really going to set us up for endurance? Because like I said, there's going to be a never ending supply. I don't say that to be all doom and gloom. I'm sharing that to be realistic. And this is where we can get into avoidance, right? Oh no, it's all petered down, it's going to go away. No, we know, and especially if we've been awake enough to be going down, taking a trip down memory lane, we know that there's been a lot of things under our nose that we didn't see. Why would we think that they would pull this big scam on the public, and then, you know, all of a sudden they just go, oh, you know what, we've had enough fun, we're going to pack it in, let's just leave those humans alone? No, they're going to keep coming at us. So knowing that, we can keep avoiding what's coming, we can keep resisting what's coming, or we can just outcreate it, just leap onto a whole other level of the building, essentially, right? So if this wants to be operating in the lobby, then we just go up to the penthouse and we stay up there, right? We have a 360 vantage point. We're really oblivious to what's going on in the day-to-day, and it's not because we're avoiding it or resisting it, it's because we're aware that it's there, but we're going to create because of that, and we're going to keep growing and evolving. So out creating this means, how do I fortify my body and have immense vitality? How do I stay plugged into the energy of creation and just create because I can? As a creator being I came here to create, how do I just keep creating? So for me, many of you know, I'm creating gardens. I'm really focusing on things that are alive. And also the fun thing about that is the compound effect, right? And for those of you that have taken the codes with me, particularly the compound codes, it's pretty cool to plant a sweet potato that I sprouted, and it's, you know, going to turn into like 24 sweet potatoes kind of thing, right? That is a fun thing, and having the patience to wait for that, and all of the metaphoric teaching, so to speak, from that. But I'm also continuing to build my team, like hire new people, create new jobs, and create new programs. We're creating 2 Oracle decks this year. I'm in the midst of purchasing another business. By the time you listen to this, it might actually be officially in my name. And on and on and on. Do I have to do this? No. Does it make sense in some ways? Maybe not. Who knows? But I came here to create, and I came here to evolve. I came here to have spiritual mastery. I'm speaking about me, but really this is all of us, right? So out creating means, what can I create because I can? Where can I look for creating ultimate spiritual mastery? What is going to give me this ultimate experience? And just focusing every day on, what can I create today? Who can I be a contribution today? How can this be a contribution to me? and seeing what else is possible. So where are you potentially contracting? Where are you in a wait and see? So this is the danger, so to speak, of not sliding into outcreate, is we're waiting for things to either calm down on the world stage, for things to quote unquote go back to normal, or any of these kind of things that we see. People are talking about there's a recession pending. No, there's not. They can tell you all they want because they know that they can manipulate the stock market. They can make you do all kinds of things when you're worried about the economy imploding. It may at some point. I don't know because I'm not inside their brain, and they are sociopathic and they are psychopathic, right? So it's hard to predict the behavior of a type of psychosis that loves to play cat and mouse, right? Where we can always be playing cat and mouse with them, or we can just stop the game altogether, literally leave the game, right? Point being is that they've been telling us for 3 years that the market is going to crash at any moment, and go and prep and go and buy all of these things. And I'm not saying don't do that, because I have invested in peace of mind. So I do think that it is smart to at least invest in peace of mind, and whatever it is that's going to give you that. For me, I have a lot of freeze-dried food and non-GMO organic seeds, things like that, right? So there's certain things that I'm doing to invest in peace of mind. I hope I don't ever have to use it, but it's all usable, by the way, and I can use it. And it is a little bit of an investment, of course, to prep. But that's an example of how I'm being with what is, but then I still want to outcreate it, right? So we could keep waiting to see what's going to happen with the economy before we create. We could wait to see what else they have cooked up on the world stage. We could be in this wait and see energy, but we will be there forever, because there's never going to be a perfect time, which is why we have to, as creator beings, as conscious co-creators, go, okay, I've done quite well up until now without co-creating with these, Freemason sock bucket puppets. So I'm going to, keep staying in the energy that I was in pre-2020. So taking a look at where you might be putting things on hold, where you might be in wait and see, and asking if that's serving you. And if it's not, where can you outcreate? What can you start with? What's something small that you can do that is creating something? And then take it from there. So I hope this helped. I hope this served as a nice little nugget for you. If you would like to get little pep talks every day and once a week, be sure to join our email community, souljourneys.ca/soul. You'll get daily messages from the Akasha, and you'll also get quantum leap nudges every week to give you that little extra pep talk for your next quantum leap. So let me know how this served. Please share it with people that you feel would benefit. I'll see you again next time. Bye for now.